dears, it is this wonderful kick-off to a great good week, the week of love. Yeah, love is in the air this week. I'm telling you, business is booming in all the card stores and so on. So we're entering into Love Week, Happy Heart Week. And it's a great good time to think about what love is all about. And you know, when you think about it, you think you know a lot about love, you know, and you can talk about love forever and so on and so forth. But when you sit down to really contemplate what it is, to really define it, it's far more challenging than you might imagine. Far more challenging. Because it's not that simplistic an experience or a thing. It's so much more than what we think it is, so much more than what we have experienced it to be. And the reason why it's difficult to define it is because it's a mystery. Just like God, it's a mystery. Indeed, it is God. We're told God is love. And we who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in each one of us. Don't you love the word abide? Old-fashioned word, abide. Lives in is what it means. And so you and I are supposed to be in a conundrum at times about love and what it is. We are supposed to have questions around it. We're supposed to unravel it, you see, the mystery that it is. And it's something that we're all very familiar with, and it's something that everybody looks for. Everybody wants love. Everybody wants to be beloved. Everybody wants to be cherished. Everybody wants to have a sense of belonging, be part of something more than just themselves. And so if we're thinking mostly about getting love, we have no clue about what it is, really, if we're thinking about getting. Because we are thinking about getting something we think we haven't got, and the truth is, we have love because we are love, and we are love because we're created out of love. We come from love, as love, to be love. Now there's something to chew on this coming week, but you won't get that in any Valentine card, I can assure you. Millions and millions of Valentine cards have been sold this week, and some of us are participating in that process. There's no doubt about it. And all those cards define love in all kinds of ways, as does the great poetry and the songs and the literature and the arts defining love all over the place since time immemorial. And that's all wonderful to read and very inspiring, but the most important definition of love at all is the one that you yourself define love as. That's the most important definition for you and for me, is how we ourselves define it. And here's the thing, it's certainly not a word. It's not a word at all. It has nothing to do really much with words, but it has everything to do with action, everything to do with movement, with motion, with expression. That's what love has to do with. So we can conjure up all the fancy words and love poems we so like and send to our loved ones and so forth, and feel good about how clever we are and how poetic we are and how wonderful we are. Isn't that neat? Look at that. I wrote that myself. Isn't it brilliant? You know, isn't it brilliant? And then we tell each other we love each other up and down the yin-yang. Oh my gosh, how much we love each other. It's an amazing thing. If we loved each other the way we tell each other we love each other all the time, this world would be a very different world. It would be a love-filled world, a world of serenity, and a world that works for all. But see, the words say one thing and the actions say another. And love is all about expression. Rollo May says that if you want to understand love, you have to participate in it, he says. You have to feel it in your pulse if you want to experience love. I mean, Augustine says, love and do what you will. Now, I've been pondering those since the first time I read those words, and I still don't quite get it. Love and do what you will. But I keep pondering those words. I know what he means intellectually. He means that if you truly love, you will always do the right thing, because love is that which increases, enhances, uplifts, and expands, and so on. But we have to get there. We have to get there. Emmett Fox says there's not a thing, no thing at all that love cannot heal. He says there's nothing enough love cannot heal. Nothing. My goodness me. If we were all believing that and acting upon that, we'd live in a healed world, wouldn't we? We certainly would. Yes, we would. Now, of course, I love 1 Corinthians where Paul talks about love, and it's a description of it, isn't it? Love is kind, love is peaceful, love is gentle, love is never boastful, love never brags, love is never envious or jealous, love only wishes good for everybody and no ill on anybody. Love is steady. It's there. You can depend upon it. You can rely upon it. It's firm. It holds. It lasts. You know, he tells us that there's no end to the stability of love. He says there's no end to its trust, its durability. He says there's no end to its hope and expectancy. He says, love outlasts everything. Everything. That's what he says. Indeed, a lot of people say a lot of things about love, including ourselves. But what is it? What is it in your life? What is it in my life? Is it a priority? Is it something we contemplate and think about a lot? There's one sure thing. There is no understanding love until we first find it and discover it and unravel it within ourselves. No understanding it at all. I must first love myself before I can love anybody else. And to love myself is not selfish. To love myself is a very intelligent thing to do. But I'm not talking about self-absorption. I'm not talking about self-centeredness with the small s all the time, small s, small self. I'm not talking about, thinking of myself as the hub of the universe and that everything should oscillate around me. I'm not talking about loving in that way, because that's not love. When we say that we are good to love ourselves, it's good to love ourselves, I'm talking about understanding that love is connected to one very important, wonderful, inspired realization written by a bard a long time ago, and it is, to thine own self be true. Love is very linked to that. Self-love is very linked to thine own self be true. And it follows as naturally the day and the night. You cannot be false to anybody else if you do study and work at being true to yourself. And when we do that, we're understanding love in the way it's supposed to be understood, as this divine thing, as this huge, vast, cosmic thing, as this unconditioned and unconditional thing, when we come to love ourselves in a way that we're being true to ourselves by so doing. And then, when that's accomplished, we're about ready to love all else besides. But the beauty of that is, once we come into that sense of self-love with a capital S, automatically we're love everywhere else we are. And we love everything else there is. And we certainly love everyone that is. That's the way love is. It sees no differentiation. It makes no separation. It sees everything as the one thing, life, being lived out in multitudinous aspects and diversity. But it's all the one thing love sees. And it embraces the one thing because it recognizes itself as that one thing. I'm everything and everyone is me, says love. So the words of love, when love speaks, they never sentence, they never judge, they never condemn. They never hurt, they never injure, they never scar, they never sear. They never demean, they never deplete, they never diminish. Love's language does the opposite of that. Punctuated by a frog. And the frog is welcome to express itself like everything else can express itself. And I won't get in its way. I love my frog. So what love does is it enlarges, it enhances, it uplifts, it expands, it advances, it adds to. That's what love does, and the language of love is supposed to do that too. I woke up this morning and the words that were running through I prepared what I was preparing last night with regard to this morning, but you know how that goes. Mankind shows up and prepares, and then you prepare, and then the divine has something entirely different in store. But that's all right, because, I am faithful to the practice that what was enforced upon me when I was in ministerial school. We were told that woe betide us, dare we not be prepared for our Sunday talks or any presentation we were given. So we had to put in our time. And we were told we had to come up with at least 3 pages of preparation for a Sunday talk. And so faithful, good girl that I was, continuing on in the way that we were schooled 200 years ago in Ireland, I was faithful to my practice, and I still am. And so I woke up this morning and anything but that was on my mind. What was on my mind was that love is lost in translation. It is buried in the babble of poor presentation. It is dimmed by the mindless and careless packaging. And it is torn by faulty delivery. That's what I woke up going through my mind. And I thought, oh, well, okay, I haven't got time to start all over in a whole different direction. So where were you last night now when I was sitting down? We have this relationship, Spirit and I. Of course, I do know I'm really only talking to myself, but the great self is listening. And so I listened to that, and I realized that what that was just saying is that we're clueless when it comes to love, really. We do the best that we can do, but we're really clueless. And certainly love is not the roller coaster thing of human emotion. It's not that. It's not sexuality. It's not, movie love. That's not what love is, you see. Most of us who say we're in love or we're falling in love or whatever, we're not at all. We're falling in lust, and that's okay. It's part of the process. It's the beginning part. It's the beginning stages. And God help us, we're still that primal. We need that lust thing to happen so that the human race can continue on for now. There might be another way of doing it later on, but for now we're still at that stage where we have to fall in lust with each other. You see, we can't keep our hands off each other, and we can't get enough of each other's company and all of that stuff, And that's why you hear all ththese people saying to people very now, oh, get a room, for God's sakes, All the time out in public you hear people say that to each other. And it's fun, and it's rascalish, and it's childlike, and it's all of that. It's a tiny little piece in the component of what love is. Love is so much more than that. So much more than that. And so you and I have the opportunity this week of studying a little bit more fully and closely what love is to you and what love is to me. And I'm giving us all homework. And I want us all to do our homework and not just smile and say, yeah, that's a nice idea, and walk out the door and completely forget about it. And the homework is you've got to take a pen and a pad, and I mean a pen and a pad, not a computer, not a smartphone, none of that, an organic pen and pad. And on the top of it, you write down this question. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. You're going to figure out how you love yourself in all the right ways. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Now, loving yourself means taking care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's what taking care of yourself in a loving way means. What are you doing to support the 4 pillars of your life? Mentality, emotionality, physicality, spirituality. What are you doing to take care of those 4 pillars of your life? How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. And you're looking at your life in a way that goes beyond what you may have been introduced to or may have been taught, or the misinformation you may have been given with regard to all that advice. Oh, you know, settle for a good job, go for a good job, a job that pays well, a job that you can do well in, a job that advances you. Get that security for yourself. That's what you need to do. Go for a good partner in life, somebody who knows how to take care of you, somebody, you know, that you'll have that secure sense of being with, and so on and so forth. Go for what is safe, go for what is sure, go for what is secure. There's no such thing, but however, people are asked to do that, and some of us fall into saying yes to that. Love is the opposite of that. Love knows nothing about safety and security and certainty. Love risks all the time. Love is adventuresome. Love is always looking for the new and the different and new avenues of expression. Love always wants to go where no one else has gone before. Have you heard that before? Yes, that's what love wants to do. It wants expanded awareness of life and living. It wants new and wonderful experiences. It wants to venture out. It wants to go beyond the comfortable, go beyond the secure, go beyond the sure, go beyond all of that, and just be itself. It just wants to be. Why? Because it cannot be conditioned. It cannot be conditioned. Love cannot be conditioned. And look at all the conditions we put on ourselves in loving relationships. And as I say, I love you, I love you, I love you, means absolutely nothing if it's not followed with that being translated into action. Into action. The best words that love could speak are action words that show up in an experience and in the way I treat others and am treated by others. That's what love is all about. So how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Have I been settling for so much less in all aspects of my life and living, when truly what would make me happy and joyous is what I really feel called to express and to experience and have been burying for so long? Well, it's time to stop burying. And it's time to stop being afraid. And it's time to get the adventuresome spirit on and the risking spirit on. And I'm not talking about crazy, reckless risks at all. I'm talking about the risks that come as a result of a deep, close, constant connectionship with our source. That impulse, that inspiration that arises up out of stillness and quiet time with the source of our being, in that energy that knows no bounds, with that amazing grace that always wants only our good, to lift us up and raise us up and expand us into more and more of the great self of ourselves, so that we can be more and more of that unconditioned and unconditional love in life and in living, and make our lives make the difference while we are here, so that we leave a legacy. And the only legacy worthwhile leaving is a legacy of love. That is the only legacy worthwhile leaving, the legacy of love. The rest pales by comparison. Pales by comparison. If you can give love to somebody, if you can have been a loving influence in somebody's life, you have given wealth beyond measure. Wealth beyond measure. And when you go to the back of the glossary of the book, the handbook of religious science, and you look in there and you see the definition of God, it says spirit, the givingness of life back onto itself. Now that's what love is. The givingness of life back onto itself. And so what love does is it pours itself out, it gives itself away, because it knows that it cannot be diminished in the slightest, no matter how much it gives, no matter how much it pours out. It can never be diminished. It's always full. Love has a full feeling to it. a full feeling to it. And if I'm not feeling filled in the love that I am in, then there's something not quite right. Something's not quite right. So to my own self be true is what I'm pondering this week. And how do I love myself? Let me count the ways. That's the homework. That's the week work for each and every one of us between Sundays this coming week. Because it's going to make all the difference in the way you live life. Because it'll make all the difference in the way you perceive life. It'll make all the difference in the way you do life, show up in life. And who am I anyway as I show up? Can I say, or do I say, what would love do in this situation? What would love do in this situation? Same thing as saying, what would I do in this situation? Because that's our name. Love is our true and real name. Love is our true and real name. So what would love do in any given situation I find myself that I have to think about because I have to make a response? How would love show up here? And who shows up here anyway? Who is it that's showing up? And within that container of love that has no boundaries, that cannot be held in, within that container of love, there are many, many qualities of spirit that support us being that unconditioned and unconditional love. Like life, light, love, peace, beauty, power, goodness, kindness, compassion, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, counsel, and all of those aspects of the divine. They're all in that energy of love available to us so that we draw from them what we need at any given time, wherever we find ourselves. So we don't want loved ones in the way they treat us, in the way they relate to us, in the way they speak to us, to sentence us or judge us or be disdainful with us or withhold from us, etc., etc. Because that's not what love does or how it shows up. So I say to us all this week, put your brave cap on, do the work, and then release whatever you have to release as a consequence, whether they be persons, places, or things, so that you can allow yourself to create a space for love to fill you up and flow out from you and through you and as you. Because all the other stuff is going to keep that stopped and blocked, that flow. And we get sluggish. And when we get sluggish, all kinds of stuff happens. And we're not the best of ourselves. And we forget ourselves. And then we move into what we're not. And we demonstrate very well what we are not when we do that. Again, in LACMA, as I was sharing last week after the class and what took place, when they gave this, they have this wonderful display with regard to violence and peace and so on. And what it said was, in violence we forget ourselves. In violence we forget ourselves, and we are so violent. Oh my gosh, are we so violent? Don't say you're not, you are. You have the same capacity to be violent as anybody else has. Same capacity to be good. Now, a thought can be violent. A feeling can be violent. You may not do anything with them, but violence is violence, and when we entertain them, we're not being our best, and we're certainly not being loving. So we need to drop all that nonsense and let that go. All of us can relate to each other at a level that is intelligent, at least, if not love-filled, but intelligent. We can be intelligent enough not to do harm, at least. Even if we're not doing good, we can at least do no harm. And in so doing, we're, in a sense, supporting good. So again, I will say to us this week, the reminder of the contemplation that's going on is God is love, And we who live in love live in God. And God lives in each one of us when we're in that mode, when we're in that state of truth, when we have recognized the essence of ourselves, the brilliance of ourselves, the sovereignty of ourselves, the magnificence of ourselves, the beauty and the grace of ourselves, the goodness in ourselves, the kindness in ourselves, the compassion in ourselves. When we recognize all of that, we're simply recognizing God. And it's not because we're so great that we're able to do that. We're able to do that because that's who and what we are. And as you know, the only thing that belongs to us, from what I share all the time, is our naughtiness. That truly is ours. That belongs to us. All our naughtiness belongs to us. But when you and I have a good thought or do a good deed, it's simply you and I getting out of the way and letting Spirit come through. Letting Spirit have its way with us. Being what we are created to be, the host of the Most High. The temple of the Holy Spirit. We're allowing ourselves to be that. And we're allowing Spirit to express itself in and through and by means of the windows of that great temple that is each and every one of us. Let's stop being less than we are. Let's stop settling for less than we can settle for. Let's start being who we truly are. And we can do that right now, and it doesn't matter what the past is. It doesn't matter how awful we've been in the past. We can right now make that decision and allow ourselves to be all that we can be. Love, unconditioned and unconditional love personified in what we think and what we say and what we do. It's your birthright. It's who you are. It's what you are because of whose you are. So, my dear ones, have your best love day ever. Have your best St. Valentine's Day, most meaningful one yet ever. And when you do come to that day, this coming Friday, celebrate yourself divinely, royally, magnificently. And I know you will have a good homework sheet behind you to back up your ability to do this. All there is love, because all there is life, because all there is God, and it's all the one thing, and you are an aspect of it, and so it is.
We invite you to experience Dr. Moira in person on Sundays. Our services are at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., and childcare is available. Please join us. If you enjoy these messages and would like to make a donation to our center, please visit our website at redondocsl.org. Thank you for your support of this ministry.